great city of New Orleans, the Crescent City, the Big Easy, to celebrate the thing that we all love. And I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time to join us here to do it. You could have gone anywhere. You could have done anything, but instead you chose to be here with us to celebrate the silver anniversary. We can't thank you enough for coming and showing your expression of love. Thank you all very much for being here. What we're going to do now is we're going to share with you some words from the city of New Orleans that they wanted us to express to you. And then we're going to hand over the podium to our friends from White Wolf. So without further ado, Bob Ellis, General Counsel for By Night Studios, and the Battle of Armored Gentlemen. Welcome, my fellow gamers.
So I have the distinct honor of being in front of you again for the third time. And every single time it's an honor. And I will tell you this, the city of New Orleans loves you. When I mean that, I mean we love you. We want you to come, we want you to enjoy us, we want you to eat our food, drink our drink, and be with us and party and embrace what you are. So I'll say this. Some ideas that start at 3 o'clock in the morning are actually good ideas. See? I'm going to tell you the story, because Jason said, Bob, you should tell us how we got here. So I'm going to give you a little path. So this story begins at 3 o'clock in the morning on Decatur Street. That way. We're drinking. I was with Shane and John. I was over there. Shane's back here. And they're like, you know what we should do? We should have an event here. It took 6 months, 8 months, 9, something like that. You know, in the South, we run slow. I don't know if y'all know that. We always run late. I'm telling my White Wolf friends that. We always run late. And next thing you know, you have the Grand Masquerade. And now we're here 3 times over. So, let me tell you this. This is a proclamation from the new mayor, Mitch Lander, who is dedicating the whole day to White Wolf.
What?
And I will tell you this. Again, what I said, we love you. We want you here. We want you back. We want you to keep coming back. And, of course, since you're immortals, it's a good tax base. That's it. With that, this is your class. Here's your proclamation, sir.
Thank you very much.
You are proclaimed.
What is that?
Thank you.
What does it say?
What does it say?
Read it! Read it!
I don't know if you want to read this. Jason will read this.
The City of New Orleans, Office of the Mayor, Certificate of Recognition. I, Mitchell Landry, Mayor of the City of New Orleans, do recognize White Wolf Publishing in honor of their return to New Orleans. A witness whereof I set my hand unto and caused the seal of the great city of New Orleans to be fixed this day of September in the year 2016.
Hell yeah!
Welcome home, everybody. Absolutely enough from me, and it's time for you to hear from White Wolf Publishing. So I'm going to introduce my good friend, my business partner, and my creative counterpart, Shane DeFriest, business developer at White Wolf Publishing, to lead you into the future.
Darkness.
Great things are born of desperation.
All of a sudden, you have different people that place different values on what is game, what is a role-playing game.
You are the vampire. You are the monster. I just knew instantly that this was going to be it. Boom.
Carl said, welcome to the Grand Masquerade back in the beautiful French Quarter in lovely New Orleans. I apologize if I sound too much like Vampire Kermit the Frog, but this thing going on. So, hey, it's hard to believe it's been 5 years since we did this. I mean, obviously a lot has happened in that time. The road to get back to this point has been challenging, to say the least. The fact that we actually get to do this at all is something of a miracle, in my opinion. Before we get started, I kind of really want to take a moment to thank everyone that made this event happen. It's certainly not easy given the circumstances. I'd especially like to thank Jason Carl, the entire Finite Studios team. Without them, we really wouldn't have an event. As always, I'd like to thank Coop and all of our security volunteers for keeping us safe. Registration is a grueling and often thankless job. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your work. Honestly, the Grand Masquerade would never be the Grand Masquerade without its beautiful sets and iconic imagery. And for Beverly Murphy, who brought the sets from True Blood and American Horror Story for us this weekend, thank you so much. A huge hand to all of them. Wow. So, as Jason kind of mentioned earlier, has it really been a full quarter century since Vampire first debuted? It doesn't seem like it's been that long since we were a bunch of rabble-rousers at Gen Con in our black trench coats and our long hair. Yeah! Don't have long hair anymore. But a lot's been said about Vampire and its significance, not just in gaming and pop culture. So I think we know that story, so I don't want to go into it too much here. What a lot of people don't know is this is not just the anniversary for the World of Darkness. It's actually the anniversary for White Wolf. Oh. So 30 years of White Wolf, actually. It's the 30th anniversary of White Wolf, and the very first issues of White Wolf magazine came out in 1986, when Stuart Wick and his brother Steve produced the very first issues by hand in their garage in high school. You can actually see the staple marks on the very first issue on the left. So White Wolf certainly made some interesting creative choices back then. The first issue, not surprisingly, the head of a wolf. Issue number 2 has a flying pterodactyl, just flying somewhere. Issue number 3, my personal favorite, I think this is Martin, but it's a gnome sitting on the back of a wolf, breathing fire, smoking a pipe. Maybe not the first pipe smoked that day. And what's actually kind of funny about this image is that the wolf's actually not going anywhere. He's just sitting there. So there's like a gnome just sitting on a wolf not moving, which is a little funny. But anyway, needless to say, 30 years ago is really where it started. And White Wolf would go on to do great things artistically in the future of art and design. But, okay, well, maybe it wasn't that different. We still really love pterodactyls. But all kidding aside, White Wolf would subsequently go on to really change the industry standard of art and the visual medium of role-playing games forever. But without the tenacity of the Wick brothers 30 years ago, we wouldn't have a White Wolf today. In the subsequent years, many people would go on to work, contribute to the World of Darkness, and join the White Wolf extended family. And we are fortunate enough to have enough of them, some of them here with us today. Some of the people I'd like to introduce, you will know. Others you may not recognize, but each of them have played a very significant and critical role in the history of the franchise. So, from left to right, Mark Grant-Hagen, a name known on the tongues of every Vampire the Masquerade fan. Without him, there would not be a World of Darkness. Stuart Wick, as previously mentioned, without Stuart, there would have never been a White Wolf. Tim Bradstreet, whose iconic art has undeniably defined the franchise for a quarter century. Justin Achille, who's contributed more content and published products for Vampire the Masquerade than any other person in White Wolf's history. Travis Williams, who along with Andrew Greenberg helped develop many of the iconic elements of the franchise in its earliest incarnations. Travis is the person that developed a lot of things from the Middle East.
in Africa. If you're curious about why the Assamites get darker, stuff about the Silent Striders, take time and talk to Travis. Steve Wick. Steve Wick's first president had the unenviable job of corralling this group of lunatics back during White Wolf's most rambunctious adolescence. And he holds the distinction of shepherding the company during its time when it was the first role-playing game to dethrone Dungeons & Dragons in the #1 spot.
Yeah.
That will not be the only time in history that happens, by the way. That's my pledge. Mike Tinney, who succeeded Steve as president, once he stepped down, held a number of roles, but perhaps he is the most famous to this crowd for being one of the original co-creators of Mind's Eye Theater. Mike helped pioneer live action participatory entertainment, and in many ways is sort of the grandfather of Vampire LARP itself. In addition to being an accomplished artist, Richard Thomas, who served as head of production during White Wolf's most prolific artistic period, created most all of the iconic vampire symbols for Vampire, and holds the unique distinction of probably having the most tattoos of his artwork on any gaming fan group worldwide. Chris Dunaway, unfortunately, we've had to leave a little earlier today. Chris was the guy that was responsible for the green iconic cover. And Vampire isn't Vampire without green marble. So, lastly, my really good friend, personal mentor, Greg Fountain, who served as marketing director during both the original White Wolf era and subsequently later the CCP era. Greg also had the unenviable job of being everyone's den mother, camp counselor, and all-around peacemaker, while still having to do his own job as a brilliant marketing mind. So, I also want to mention, who's not up on the slide, Aaron Ross, who was also here from the very beginning. Thank you, all these guys, for being here. So now you've seen what everyone looks like today, but I thought it might be fun to show you something from a different era. When I say fun, I mean embarrassing. This is White Wolf from the very beginning. That's White Wolf in 1993. Real quick, that's Mike Tinney, third from the left. Rich Thomas, third from the right. Mark Renhagen, second from the left in the middle. Chris McDonough, fifth from the right in the middle. And Steve Wick, bottom right front, who suspiciously seems to be wearing the exact same set of Birkenstocks for the last 23 years. But as I was saying, thanks to everyone who helped make White Wolf the World just great. Thank you guys for being here. We really hope you have a good time. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It's also worth noting this is easily the most professional photo White Wolf has ever taken. And on the topic of really professional photos, that brings us to us. 2016, we take our jobs seriously, but we really don't take ourselves seriously. So to quickly introduce White Wolf 2.0 or 3.0, depending on how you look at it. Our CEO, from left to right, Tobias, with an unpronounceable last name, Anderson. But yeah, exactly, whatever that was from behind the stage. He's been in the business for 20 years. He used to work at DICE. If there's any Battlefield fans, you want to ask him a bunch of questions about that. But good guy. Our lead story, Martin Erickson, who Dracula, who also worked on the MMO. He's been in the LARP community since the 1980s. He won an Emmy for interactive storytelling. Kareem Lamar, our editor-in-chief, who's overseeing product approvals. He's the white-haired goth you see running around. He's been involved in Vampire fans since the early 90s. And our business developer, Donna DeVere, who many of you know. She was one of our here. She has a focus on product availability, and she's been heavily involved in the European LARP scene for a very long time. And then some joker on the far right who doesn't know when to quit. So that's White Wolf 2016. It's really funny taking that picture out of the old town of Stockholm. People are like, what the fuck are those guys doing? So one of the things I want to do is I want to explain the difference between how we operate as compared to previous versions of the company, iterations. Because I think that would be helpful for the community going forward. So White Wolf Publishing, as I said, it was founded in 1986. It later merged with Lion Rampant, who did Ars Magica in 1991. And it existed up until 2006 as how we would define as a traditional role-playing game publishing house, whose primary business was to physically develop and manufacture books and games. They also did some external licensing, such as the Activision games, the Hunter games. Every time you mention it, someone just downloads it. So. They also did significant merchandising, such as pins, shirts, lighters, during the height of World of Darkness popularity.
Action figures.
And some action figures. But licensing and merchandising was not the primary focus of the company. Book publishing was. In 2006, as you know, White Wolf was acquired by CCP with the intention of making a World of Darkness MMO, which unfortunately did not happen. And at this point, the White Wolf staff was fully integrated into CCP, and White Wolf as a functional separate company ceased to exist. The White Wolf name and logo were predominantly used as an imprint in conjunction with World of Darkness. And the last official product that was published internally by the original White Wolf Publishing was the Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition, which debuted here 5 years ago. Subsequent products have been done by external third parties under license, first by CCP and then by us. So that makes, that's kind of the history of the company. And your question is, who exactly are you guys, and what do you do? So, we are White Wolf Entertainment, and we are not a publishing company in the way that you are familiar with. Our parent company is Paradox Interactive, and we are part of the Paradox Group. But White Wolf Entertainment is a wholly owned and independently managed company. We are not a division of Paradox. That is, we're not a division of Paradox Interactive in that publishing games and practice of we are not an imprint label like White Wolf Publishing was as part of CCP. While we do share some resources with them, we operate as a completely separate entity. For those that may understand certain aspects of the entertainment business, how we function is not dissimilar to Marvel, Lucasfilm, or Pixar's relationship with Disney. The Wizards of the Coast, independent from Hasbro model, also very similar. So we manage and run these brands. We're not an integrated part of Paradox Interactive. What that means is that we own all the